Good afternoon, everybody. It's Josh Collacchi here with Roto Curve, and welcome back for your pitching picks. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different because it is a short slate, and I think it would be a good day to kind of show everyone about how I go about doing some of my research for pitching and kind of how I make a lineup with these pitchers. Obviously, with today being only a 9-game slate, there aren't many pitchers to choose from. The two top guys that I do like are Chris Heston and Anibal Sanchez. They both have decent matchups, and Lance Lynn also has a good matchup against Cincinnati. But he is very expensive. He's $11,000 on DraftKings, and I think he's the most expensive pitcher on FanDuel as well. So for some of the bats you want to get into your lineups, it might not be as wise to spend up on a guy that costs $11,000 like Lynn, because usually that price is reserved for guys like Clayton Kershaw or David Price or guys of that nature. But before we get into the rest of the guys I want to talk about for pitching, I do wanted to bring up that teaching point that I told you guys I would share, simply because some people have asked me how I do some of my research, and I think this is the best way to show it. So I'm going to bring up a screen share on how I use the Roto Curve tools to do some of my research for pitching. So give me 1 second. Here is the sharing the screen here. The first thing I do is, like, say, for example, I'm on DraftKings. I will go through today's slate. This is just the standard contest they had for today, the $5 Super Knuckleball. It would show all of the games for today, obviously, with there's only being 9 games, and these are the list of the pitchers. Now, one of the first things I'll do is I will go over to the Roto Curve site, in which you've seen this tool I posted, the MLB team batting for starting pitchers. You can find that under MLB, and you scroll down to MLB team batting for starting pitchers here. And this brings up the matchup thresholds that I talk about, and on the site you can see that the red means to stay away from pitchers against this offense. The yellow is average in between, and the green are target pitchers against this offense. Now, at this point, you've realized that some of the better offenses and some of the worst offenses hasn't changed much because of the amount of stats that each team has accrued. So we've got teams like the Rays, the Padres, the Phillies, even though they don't strike out as much, Marlins, Mets, and Cubs are teams you want to target right-handed pitchers against. As for lefties, you're looking at the Cardinals, which you've heard me talk about before, the Rockies, when they're not in Coors Field, I must add, Brewers, Braves, Mets, and White Sox. Now, if they're all green, that means there's the top tier thresholds for their matchups. And although that doesn't happen too much, you can see it with the Rays and the White Sox so far for now. And the Braves are also a top tier matchup along with the Cardinals and Rockies for left-handed pitching. But after I do that, that means I would see, let's see, target a righty against the Rays. You've heard that before. Let's just look at that. The Tampa Bay Rays game is here, and it's Anibal Sanchez, who's a right-handed pitcher against the Rays. Now, I would look at Anibal's numbers on FanGraphs. I don't have to get into that. I've shown you guys how to do that. But what you can see is you can look at their different their splits against righties and lefties, and of course with the matchup that we just looked at for the Rays, Sanchez does have a good matchup. Now, on the rest of the site, you can go to MLB, and you can go to starting pitcher strikeout rates. That is updated as well, and that's on this tab. And what you'll see is you can find pretty much every starting pitcher here. And when you scroll down, you'll be able to find anybody you want to see. And for today, we're looking at Anibal Sanchez, and he has a strikeout rate of 21.1%. Now, that's above the threshold I set for my pitchers at 21%. And that means he has the ability to strike hitters out. And against a team like the Rays we just talked about, that's a good matchup for him. Now, that would mean that I do have he's the top option for me today. And just looking at the slate, as you've seen here from all games, he's one of the higher priced pitchers. Now, that being said, I would like him in my cash games if I'm playing cash tonight, which I may not because of the slate. Depends on how the weather looks. But I do like him in GPPs as well because he has that strikeout upside against Tampa. The last thing I wanted to look at is with those 3 tools you see here is the MLB park factors, which I just updated this morning as well. The green is are parks that you'd like to target hitters against. Obviously, you see Coors Field, Comerica, Texas Rangers Ballpark, Yankee Stadium. And the red is for pitchers, and that's Wrigley Field, GS Cellular, and Tropicana. Now, that strikes a nerve there, doesn't it? Because Tropicana is where the Rays play, and that's exactly where Anibal Sanchez is pitching today in Tampa Bay. So you see he has that park factor advantage. He has a good strikeout rate, and he has a matchup, as we've always discussed, against the Rays, who are one of the worst pitchers in baseball, or one of the worst offenses in baseball against right-handed pitching. Now, once that's set, and you look at some other guys that I like to talk about, obviously you try to look at some cheap guys, and you see that these guys aren't very successful. I'm targeting against Kyle Loesch, targeting against John Danks, although he has been pitching well of late. And you remember me talking about him last week, but in a park like Fenway Park, I'm not sure he can keep the ball in the ballpark. But some other guys that I like today are Chris Heston. I want to talk about him because Heston's one of the higher priced guys. It's one of the highest prices you've seen from him. And the reason why I like him is although the Brewers don't present a top-tier matchup, they are average in all three. You have to look at these deeply because the way that I set these is a great matchup is a WOBA of 300 or below, and the Brewers are just 311. And for ISO, they're right in the middle of the pack as well. And they do have a strikeout rate in the close to 20%. So they're not a terrible matchup for me. And on a slate like today, when there's not many options, I do like Heston because he pitches in San Francisco, which we just talked about for the park factor. They're one of the better pitchers parks in baseball right now at 29.32. He does have a good strikeout rate. See if I can find it in here. There you go. For those of you on Macs, you can hit Command F or Control F on PCs and type in the name. His strikeout rate of just under 20%. Now, it is marked in red, but it's very close to the normal threshold, so I wouldn't consider that a negative, especially against the Brewers who strike out a lot. So for teams like that, those are the two pitchers I like today, probably in my cash games if I'm playing, and I will be using them for their strikeout upside for GPP. Be sure to keep an eye out on the rest of the RotoCurve tools. I just showed you a few of them that you can use for your needs, for your research. But be sure to look at the RotoCurve lineups page, and I want to bring that screenshot to you guys as well. Back on the screen share here, back to RotoCurve, you will see the MLB lineup picks. The MLB, here we go. MLB starting lineups right here. So once you go here, it's something I want you guys to all use because it's not just the lineups, as you'll see. We'll upload as soon as all these lineups come out. They're going to come out underneath all these, but you have to think about the fact that you're getting the weather, the wind from east and west. You're getting the Vegas line. And you can even look at the pitchers' salaries as well. So be sure to keep this in mind along with the other RotoCurve tools that have been updated each day, and also look at Danielle's weather picks that you'll see later for today. So be sure to use all those things. Use everything at your RotoCurve disposal, and be sure to win some money tonight on a Monday night. Good luck, everybody.